In this video, we will explore what library time looks like for your students and for you as the librarian or teacher acting as the librarian. The students at your school love to go to the library, but library time can cause a bit too much excitement in your class. It is helpful to have your guidelines in place for how to line up and to go to the library. Whether you as the librarian goes down to the classroom to pick up the students and bring them to the library, or whether the teacher brings them to you at the library, students should walk in a line, one behind the other, hands by their sides with their voices off. Students should face forward and walk slowly and softly as they make their way to the library because other classes in the school are in session. To ensure that the students still in class are not distracted and teachers in the middle of their lessons are not annoyed. Having protocols like these in place and requiring that your students follow them makes things so much better for everyone. You can call on someone to review the rules before everyone lines up to help them remember. A sign like the one shown here is a fantastic reminder too. For the first few times, it is also helpful to practice how to do each of these tasks, especially how to behave in the library. Students should be given specific guidelines on how to line up at the door before you leave the classroom. Line up. Hands down, turn around, face the door, say no more is a cute rhyme or chant that may help students remember the rules in a quick and fun way. You and the library team can customize the exact list of guidelines you would like your students to follow. Some specific examples include lining up quickly and quietly, walking in a straight line with voices off, taking off your shoes before entering the library, sitting down quietly with your hands in your lap if you plan to do a read aloud first, and waiting patiently for the next instruction. Here are a few creative ways to line up a class, whether leaving the classroom to come to the library or whether leaving the library to return to the classroom. You can line up the students by tables if you assign a number to each table. You can line up students by gender, like all girls can line up. You can practice phonics skills in the way you ask your students to line up too. For instance, you could say if your name starts with the letter B, or B or B, line up. Or if you have 3 syllables in your name, line up. Or if your name ends with an M, line up. You could also have your students line up by birthday month, like if you were born in June, line up. Here are some more suggested guidelines for entering and exiting the library. Take off your shoes before entering the library. Line up your shoes outside the library. Walk through the door calmly, one by one. Students can pass an open door to each other, or you can assign a door handler. Sit down quietly with your hands in your lap. Wait for the next instruction, and if students act out, remind them of the rules. Establishing library time routines is so important to the way your library runs. When you train students to come into the library and do the same activities over and over again each week, they learn the patterns and know what to expect. This helps you as a librarian with behavior management and them as the students because they aren't waiting on you for what to do next. With enough practice, this becomes a routine. It is helpful to consistently review the guidelines of library time at the beginning of each year and to enforce it throughout the entire school year. I have observed a lot of different library time routines, but the most efficient and effective ones were structured something like this. Students come to the library with their checked out book from the previous week. Students enter the library quietly and drop their book into a bin or basket, a box designated for book returns. Students begin browsing the shelves quietly on their reading level to choose the book they want to check out next. I like to set a timer on my phone for book check-in and browsing time to keep the whole class on schedule. For a 30-minute library time, I allot 12 to 15 minutes for browsing, and that way we have 12 to 15 minutes left for checking the books out and silent independent reading or a read aloud at the end. Students check out the book using the card system or the notebook system under your supervision and then begin reading their book quietly around the room. And we can flesh out a little bit more about what that check-in and check-out system could look like for your school in a future video. And the last thing, if students are waiting to check out their books, they can sit and read their book until you call those students over to check out their book. Remember, even younger students in grades K and 1 can enjoy reading books quietly by themselves through picture reading. Picture reading actually develops inferencing and sequencing skills, both forms of comprehension students need to understand what they read as they get older. These little ones might not know all the words on the page yet, but they can enjoy sitting quietly and looking at the pictures to enjoy the story in their minds until their teacher, parent, grandparent, or older sibling can read them the words that correspond with it at home. If your school doesn't yet allow lower grades to check out books, consider talking with your principal and your grade K and 1 teachers to see if it is a possibility to do a trial run in the near future. After all of the students have checked out their books, you can decide if there is enough time to make suggestions of available books that may interest students, to ask students to share book recommendations with the class, to read a book aloud to the students, which we will discuss in further detail, and to facilitate another literacy activity, which we will cover later in the training. The goal of library time is to ensure that students have the time to browse the books and check out books to bring back to their classroom and home every week. Only after all of the students have checked out a book for the week should you focus on a read aloud or library activities. Establishing routines will make classroom management easier. While the students are in the library, they are under your care and your classroom management. Model ideal behavior. Obviously, do this yourself, but also compliment students by name who are modeling ideal behavior too. Verbal praise is a huge incentive for students. Number 2 is make sure that students know what your rules mean. Often, students act out because they really do not know what is expected of them. Sometimes I have used the phrase, "What does it look like when?" to remind students of specific expectations and rules that I have in place within our library. For example, what does it look like when I have checked out a book and I'm waiting for the other students in my class to finish checking out theirs? Students can respond with what they think your expectations are, and then you can confirm that they are correct or adjust their thinking by explaining what they don't quite understand. For instance, you could say, "Yes, Jenny, I do want you to sit and read your book while you wait, but I would like for you to sit over here on this floor mat and read quietly." This is independent reading time, not buddy reading time, so there is no talking while you read and wait. Number 3 is to offer verbal praise. "Jenny, I love the way you are sitting quietly and reading on the floor mat while you wait for the other students to check out books." 4 is to build relationships. The more you get to know your students, the more they will trust and respect you. I like to get to know my students by asking them questions about themselves. This can be done before school, after school, or during the book browsing time in the library to assist students in finding books about topics that interest them. Some questions I like to ask are, what do you like to do when you get home from school? What do you want to be when you grow up? What is your favorite subject in school so far? Do you have a favorite animal? What sports do you like to play or watch on TV? And finally, like I've mentioned before, establish routines. This is the best way to ensure that students stay on task throughout the 30 minutes of library time. Now, if your school allots less time for library time, then you need to adjust the amount of time students have to browse books. And if your school allots more time for library time, then you need to plan to have a read aloud or something in addition to the check-in and check-out system. The reason Hands Across the Sea suggests students check books out first during library time is because if you wait until the end, often students run out of time and not everyone gets enough time to browse the books or check one out that week. And we all know that this defeats the main purpose of library time.